If you want to be part of ensuring the existence of one of the few professional gaming media outlets that isn't being ruined, go to patreon.com/secondwindgroup and please consider giving whatever you can spare.
This week sees the release of Killer of Killers, the latest film in the Predator franchise and the second film in the series to be directed by Dan Trachtenberg following Prey. Premiering on Disney Plus this weekend, the animated anthology is something of an appetizer for Trachtenberg's big, live-action theatrical Predator film coming later this year, Badlands. After decades of somewhat questionable sequels and crossovers, it finally feels like the Predator franchise is delivering on its potential as a fun, high-concept action franchise that is playful and cool in the ways that sequels to an 80s action classic should be. Where it seems like any property with any nostalgic attachment whatsoever is pushing towards multiversal, fan service, cameo, crossover nonsense. Movies like Prey and Killer of Killers just aren't how modern franchises operate anymore, and that's why they rock. So this week, we're going to take a look at Dan Trachtenberg's management of the Predator franchise, why it stands out in the modern cultural landscape, and why these movies feel so satisfying in a way that other modern sequels often don't. So, stick around. Part of the beauty of the Predator franchise is its simple and elegant premise. There is an alien species, a big game hunter, that enjoys hunting the most dangerous game of all. Spoiler, it's usually human. It's an infinitely adaptable premise, in that you can drop a predator into virtually any time or place and construct a potentially compelling story around it. Indeed, this is a large part of what the appeal of Trachtenberg's back-to-basics approach is. Predator versus Native Americans, Predator versus Vikings, Predator versus Samurai, Predator versus
Fighting Polygon Team!
In this context, there is no need for a larger mythos. There's no demand for lore or exposition. Each film in the series has featured a different human protagonist. The audience doesn't need to understand the Predator's culture or backstory or motivations. For all we know, this guy is a disgraced dentist on his world and is being cancelled on Predator social media as we speak. The stakes don't need to dramatically escalate from one film to the next, because the stake of being hunted by this dude is stakes enough for us to root for any character. It is such a simple setup for a movie, and it can be applied in any number of ways. Part of the historical problem facing the Predator franchise has been a lack of trust in this premise. The franchise tried shifting time and setting once for the immediate sequel, but then jumped directly into a pair of underwhelming crossovers with the Alien franchise, with a tagline that promised, "Whoever wins, we lose." And let me tell you, as somebody in the audience for that movie, that's truth in marketing. While director Paul W.S. Anderson connected this crossover back to Frankenstein meets the Wolfman as a none-too-subtle jab at Aliens director James Cameron, who invoked that film in a preemptive trashing of Anderson's movie, and even shoots sequences of AVP, Alien vs. Predator, like a Universal Frankenstein movie, these two crossovers were arguably ahead of their time.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
With the benefit of hindsight, they seem more like indications of the direction that Hollywood was going. Recently, following the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the nostalgic revival of Star Wars with The Force Awakens, there has been a strong sense that every existing intellectual property needs crossovers, legacy characters, and lore. It's no longer enough to just make a third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. It has to tie together two previous aborted Spider-Man franchises. It's no longer enough to make a third Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie. It also has to serve as a tour through the library of intellectual property that Disney purchased when they bought 20th Century Fox. Most frustratingly, these crossovers are all treated as solemn and earnest affairs, a family trip to the mausoleum, with news stories about how costume choices made grown men cry. This approach isn't just used where it arguably makes sense. It seems like every franchise now is inevitably drawn to this sort of achingly and suffocatingly self-important, crossover-heavy and lore-building approach. For its fifth movie, the Scream franchise does a Lego sequel that treats David Arquette like he is Harrison Ford, and let's just say, that didn't leave me dewy-eyed.
I can't believe you said that. That makes me angry!
Ghostbusters Afterlife turned an 80s comedy about ghost blowjobs into a story about how your CGI daddy always loved you. The big new movie released last weekend was a Karate Kid sequel crossing over the original film and its reboot. Everything is explained to death as a sort of performative fealty to the property. It isn't enough for these to just be fun action movies or comedies anymore. They have to serve as love letters to the larger brand, demonstrating their love by parading out familiar faces and constructing overcomplicated lore that often kills these movies dead in their tracks. These movies seem designed to reward fans for having watched earlier movies in the franchise, and seem to expect to be validated by fans by reminding those fans of things they've already seen. To bring this back just a little bit closer to the Predator franchise, you can see this in the latest installment of the Predator's sibling series, Alien Romulus. Romulus gets off to a pretty good start, with a likable cast, a solid premise, and some genuinely gorgeous imagery. However, just as the film is gaining momentum, it stops dead for a cameo from a computer-generated Ian Holm, so we can explain how the film connects to both the original Alien from 1979 and Prometheus from 2012.
This microorganism can be the most destructive pathogen ever observed. XX121 xenomorph. One of our towing ships first made contact with this specimen 2 decades ago.
Hell, if you want to get a sense of what this approach looks like when it's applied to the Predator franchise, just watch Shane Black's The Predator, which features an extended sequence that effectively takes place inside a museum to the franchise's lore, with a tour given by Jake Busey, playing the son of a character played by his father, Gary Busey, in Predator 2. The Predator is just non-stop exposition and lore dumping and mythology in a desperate attempt to turn the Predator franchise into some grand galactic mythos. It answers questions that frankly did not need answering. Why are the Predators so obsessed with Earth?
They're trying to snap up all of our best DNA before we're gone.
Why do Predators like hunting so much?
Meaning it's a Chinese menu of DNA comprised of the deadliest species in the entire...
It's our universe, yeah?
Why do the Predators rip the spines out of their victims like that?
Yeah, for trophies.
Yes, from the strongest, smartest, most dangerous species on every planet they visit.
Collecting survival traits from the most high-end specimens.
I think they're attempting hybridization.
But why male models?
This all builds to a closing scene that is clearly intended to be lore porn, but instead just leaves me forlorn, when the characters recover a pod that is marked Predator Killer. It is very clear from the way the scene is shot that the pod was intended to include an established character. Indeed, we know from photos shot by the body double on set that versions of this scene were shot, including the reveal that the Predator Killer was either Ellen Ripley or Newt from the Alien franchise. However, it seems like the Predator couldn't get any of the actors to sign on for this idea, so it's ultimately revealed to be just a generic Iron Man suit. The Predator is awful for many of the same reasons that most of these lore-building franchise brand extensions are awful. I'm not here to watch a film spend 2 hours tying red twine together on a corkboard in an effort to convince me that the mythos around it is suitably epic. Honestly, I just want a cool action movie. According to Trachtenberg, the idea for what will become Prey originated in the late 1980s in the backseat of a carpool to a karate tournament, where one of Trachtenberg's friends described the plot of Predator to him, including descriptions of the indigenous character Billy, who has a big showdown with the Predator on a log in the middle of the jungle. Trachtenberg imagined a grand mythic version of this confrontation, and was shocked when he eventually saw the movie to discover that Billy died off-screen. Even as a teenager, Trachtenberg thought it would be really cool to actually see Billy fight the Predator. But instead of pitching a remake or an origin story or a computer-generated doppelganger, he instead developed an original pitch around an original character that developed that teenage boy's fascination with the premise, wouldn't it be cool to see an indigenous character fight a Predator? And sure, while Prey features no shortage of callbacks and references to the original Predator, it is clearly its own movie. The Alan Silvestri score is used sparingly, buried in the movie's own musical leitmotifs. Naru is given her own arc, uncluttered by cameos or discussion of the other films. Trachtenberg clearly loves Predator and has thought a lot about it, but that affection bleeds through in more than just exposition and aesthetics. Trachtenberg hones in on the first Predator as a movie about imperialism and colonialism, and so feeds these themes back into Prey. He understands the first Predator as a film about masculinity, and so plays with that idea by putting a female character at the center of the narrative. Prey understands Predator in a very fundamental way, but never feels so insecure that it has to reassure the audience that it is a Predator film. This carries through into the premises of Killer of Killers and Badlands. Killer of Killers is an anthology movie set in 3 different times with 3 different protagonists. The second of these 3 segments is a high-concept short based around the question of whether you can make a Predator movie without dialogue, while the third is a Predator dogfighting movie. Later this year, Badlands will ask if it's possible to make a Predator movie where the Predator is the hero. These are, to put it simply, the sort of cool ideas that any teenager would have after watching Predator for the first time. And they are so much more compelling than, what if the Xenomorph was there too? Or, what if there was some grand epic mythos? Or, gee, I wonder what's up with all the spine ripping. It's an approach that prioritizes the quality of the individual film ahead of the abstract value of the brand. It's what happens when you entrust a storyteller with a brand like this, instead of just treating Marvel and Star Wars as universally applicable playbooks. It's an approach to franchise storytelling that argues that the value of the larger brand derives from the quality of the individual entries, treating them as building blocks with their own integrity. If you make good movies that explore the premise in interesting ways, you will have a good franchise. So, as the Predator franchise presses on, all I have to say to Trachtenberg is, happy hunting. I've been Darren Mooney, and this was The Backdrop.
Get to the chopper!
We here at Second Wind are well into our second year as a content-producing powerhouse, and we're hoping to keep going into a third, and perhaps even dare we dream a fourth. By donating as little as $1 a month to our Patreon, you can be a part of helping us keep going. If you want to be part of ensuring the existence of one of the few professional gaming media outlets that isn't being ruined and or shut down by corporate bastards, go to patreon.com/secondwindgroup and please consider giving whatever you can spare. And if you don't want to do any of that either, I don't know, take up cycling, it's good core exercise.
Nothing like it has ever been on Earth before. It sees the heat of our body. It smells the heat of our fear.
What the hell are you?
The ultimate warrior has met the ultimate enemy.
Come on, do it. Come in!
Arnold Schwarzenegger faces his greatest challenge: to stay alive. Predator: The Hunt is now on video cassette from CBS Fox Video.